Well, hello. Welcome to the podcast, I guess. This is episode one of Who Knows? I'm here with my beautiful wife, Kathleen, and we're going to see what happens. So, I guess tonight we were going to talk about why we're doing this, who we are, who our kids are, maybe talk a little about the Bible, and see what happens. So, what are we doing?
First of all, I didn't get a chance to say hello. So hello.
There you go.
It is 10 o'clock here, just so that everybody knows what time it is. And it's our first podcast. We had just put the kids to bed about an hour ago, and Brian had just got home from youth group. So
I did.
What are we doing here? That's the first question you said, right?
Yeah, well, we were supposed to release a podcast today, and then the last 2 days, our daughter got sick, and then life happened, and we wanted to keep true to releasing on Friday, and today we got, 2 hours left. So I guess we should get this going, get this done, so we keep to our commitment.
Absolutely. Let's do it. So the first question is, go ahead. What was it?
So what are we doing? It's the name of the episode, right?
Yeah, what are we doing? Well, we're not really sure 100% what we're doing. We're just going to kind of go with the flow. I mean, at least answering for myself. Brian might have different answers than I do tonight, but I know these are questions that people might be wondering. And what are we doing? We're doing a little bit of letting you guys know what's going on in our lives. We're going to open up for other families to reach out to us. We have a very large family. We'll get into that a little bit later. But mainly, we're just going with the flow.
Yeah, so I think my reason that when we talked about doing this was we both had very interesting experiences in our life. We both have been divorced, remarried, and we both have gone to church our whole life, but then spent time not doing very good godly things, and then getting back into church and getting back close to God. We've messed up a lot, and we still mess up every day. So we want to be able to share our good, our bad, and our ugliness with the world, but in a way where we can hope to help encourage people and maybe through our mistakes or through our successes, help people who are married stay married, or people who are hurting stop maybe hurting a little bit, and hopefully to glorify God in the whole process.
I do have to make a disclaimer. I know at times because of my mom, because of me, I have to take blame and responsibility on myself now that I'm old enough. I have a quirky sense of humor.
Quirky.
I know that Brian
Wow.
has such a good sense of humor. So here's my disclaimer. If you're going to get mad at us for saying something that we say, we probably get mad at ourselves too. No, I know we get mad at ourselves. So it's okay. Go ahead and get mad at us.
You can't get mad at someone that's perfect. How would I do that?
What we say isn't going to always be perfect. And sometimes we might even look back on it later and say, I said this, but I don't really agree with that now, even though I thought that in the moment. So it's okay if you get mad at what we say. Sometimes our thoughts may be different down the road. Sometimes they won't be different. And that's okay. That's what makes the world go round. So pretty much hate us at times. That's okay. We hate ourselves at times. Love us at times. We love ourselves at times. And welcome aboard.
We have a saying in our marriage: "I love you always, but I don't like you always."
That's right. And I think that goes for like a lot of people in my family, and especially yes, that is true for my husband and I, but that goes for anybody in my life. I might not always like you, but I will always love you. And I don't always have to agree with you or think that what you're saying is right or wrong for me to love you.
Right. So we know what we're doing. We're making a podcast. Why are we doing it? We kind of explained that. Who are we? Well, I'm Brian. I am an ordained pastor who fell away from his calling for a long time, who is now rededicated his life to God, who's in church, loves being in church, and someone who's looking to get back into ministry as soon as I can. This is my wife, Kathleen. So, who are you?
I'm
Nice to
going to
meet
give
you.
you a generic answer because it's hard to answer who I am, but I'll give you a generic answer. I am Brian's wife. If you would have asked
Whoa,
me,
you are? When did that happen?
we have
Surprise.
we have a total of 6 kids together, um, two together, and I have one son from a previous marriage. Brian has three
When are
from
we
a
going to tell
previous
me
marriage,
that?
but they're all ours. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago, especially 10 years ago, if I was ever going to be a pastor's wife, I would probably be surprised now. I mean, surprised then, thinking that that I am married to a pastor now. But this is it. This is a good life. I actually enjoy it. I'm learning a lot. Brian said I did grow up in a church, and I did. I was born and raised Catholic, and I fell away from the church. I'm learning a different church style with Brian, and it's just fascinating to watch him teach, learn from him, and I put a lot of trust into his teachings.
So, when different style is, we just read the Bible and interpret the Bible. We don't put any faith into a denomination. We don't pay faith into a pastor. We don't put any faith into anything other than the Word of God. So we study the Word. We try to interpret it as accurately as we can. We look up good resources to help us do that. But our
Mhm.
ultimate determination of what we believe comes from the Bible, not from any particular denomination. So she said we have a lot of kids, which we do, who we love with all our heart. And it's been an experience. Our youngest, before we had the two new ones, would have been Caden, which is 9. We have
Mhm.
going up from there would have been Chasten, and he's 10, and then Caleb, which is 13, and then Sarah, which is 16.
Mhm.
And we ended up having 2 more. The first one, Brian, he is now a year and almost 4 months old. And he is the most challenging child I have ever experienced raising out of all the kids. He has been to the hospital 3 times, once for
Mhm.
just being sick, but twice for straight out trying to hurt himself. He is adventurous, he is imaginative, and he is going to be an engineer or something in that field because he likes to figure out how to climb, do
Mhm.
angles, escape, is figure out how something comes apart, and he hurts himself doing it. But he's a very, very smart kid. And then we have Olivia. Her
Hold on.
name's oh,
I
no.
would like to add to Brian. I have a title for him, and his title for me is "Where there's a will, there's a way, child." And he is the type of child, just like Brian said, who likes to find the different angles. So, like, he has a toy truck, like a little Tykes truck. So instead of walking around it all the time, he has learned that he can go under it to get to where he needs to go. He can go through the windows.
Like Dukes of Hazzard, like right through the window.
Yes, because walking around it is easy, but that's not the only way to go. And he wants to know every angle.
He does.
He does.
What was it yesterday? He was under the truck. Looks like he was working on the engine,
On the engine, right?
and he had his bottle. And he couldn't reach it without coming out. So he decided to use his feet to grab his feet with the bottle with his feet.
Pull the bottle towards his body to where he could reach it with his hands and then drink it. Hey, I guess he got thirsty while he was working on the engine.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to be older. I hope he doesn't lose that, like just how to figure things out. because I want to take them outside and do breaks with them. I want to take them outside and work on the car with them. So I'm hoping
Mhm.
not to lose that. Um, One of the things I want to buy next year is I want to buy an old truck. I'm trying to sell my truck, get rid of my truck now,
Mhm.
so I can buy something old, which sounds silly, but I want a old Ford with an old straight six in it. It's my favorite truck. It was my first truck I've ever owned, and I want it back. So I will be looking this year.
Um, this is where my humor is gonna come in. He's an Eagles fan, and he likes Ford. If he was a Chevy guy, which he drives now, and like the Giants, then he might be considered perfect.
Well, the Giants are 2-9, 2-10, something. I don't know. I can't keep track of how many games they lose a year now. But at least they're not the Cowboys.
At least they're not the Cowboys. We can agree on that.
Yeah, thank goodness. Because I don't know if you could have got married if you were a Cowboys fan. I don't know. I don't know if that would work. Cowboys are a pretty nasty team. Pretty nasty team. So then we have Olivia. So her name, we were talking about different names, and I wanted something that was like with our faith, because our faith is something we decide to place very important in our marriage. So her name is Olivia Grace, which just mainly to us means I live in grace, because we
Mhm.
do. If it wasn't for God's grace and what Jesus did on the cross, we would be doomed. Because I am not a good person. I know you have your flaws, even though I can't say them. I don't know where they are. But I know we all have our issues, right? And we live in grace through Jesus. So her name is representative of that.
Sometimes I think she really does have a lot of grace too. Like I think it's fitting. She is my easiest baby by far when it comes to sleeping at night. She goes through fussy periods during the day, but nothing that I can calm her down about. But like last night, she slept so good, 8 straight hours, and she's only 3 months old. My other two biological children that I got to raise from birth, they would wake up every 2 hours, but not Olivia. And then she doesn't even cry. She sits and coos because she knows that's enough to wake you up. I look at her in the crib. I get her bottle ready. I come to her, pick her up out of the crib, still not crying. I say, I have to change your diaper first because let's face it, I don't want her to fall asleep while I'm feeding her, and I have to wake her up to change a diaper. So I change her diaper. And she just sits there and smiles at you. And most babies are like, wow, feed me now. And not her. She just has so much grace. She really does.
She's amazing, and she will cry and scream for me or you, and like do this now, do this now. Because you can tell either her diaper's wet, she's hungry, something's up with her. It's just amazing. As soon as you like unzip her outfit to change that diaper, how it's just her attitude goes from, yeah, I'm not happy to, I love you guys, and she starts smiling at you or cooing at you.
Because she knows that you get the message. It's
Yeah,
like you understood the assignment, and then she
yes, you
smiles.
did, you did.
Yeah.
So the last night it was she was sleeping in my arms. I had her laying like right here. Her head was here, and she just fell asleep. And in the middle of her sleep, I just remember her going, and I don't know why, but that was the coolest moment I've had in a long time. It was so neat. I just remember looking at you going, "Oh my goodness, you missed it! You missed it! You missed it!" I was freaking out about it because that little quarter of a second giggle was just
Yeah.
the most adorable thing. Speaking of cutest things, yesterday? No, the day before, we had Brian's first haircut.
Oh, yeah, yes, we did, we did. He
We
did
did.
so good with that too.
So I have some pictures. I'm going to try to throw them up here. For the people that are listening on the podcast and the video, they will be on our Facebook. Let's see how this works. Okay, there we go. So there's Brian, pre-haircut, and there he is getting his little comb over. He's trying to see how the little buzzer works, and he was fine with it.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, he had Paw Patrol. They have so when you walk in here, it's all Yankees and Giants. The owner of this place is a terrible person,
Mhm.
but the guy that cuts our hair is awesome. And so his name's Danny, the guy that cuts our hair. He's a great guy. He's the reason I go to that shop because he's just a really, really good guy. He's nice to talk to. He likes Marvel. He likes different shows. So we have a lot of comments. We talk about a lot of things. He did a really good job with Brian. He made sure he was understanding what things were before he actually did it. As you can tell here, let him feel the vibration. And then he started cutting. And this little guy started to look older and older and older. And oh, this is where we happened to see, I think it was a Yankees or a Giants thing on the wall. And there he is, my big guy. I tell you, it's crazy in life. It's like you blink an eye and they go from this little tiny thing to walking. And then before we know it, they're going to be teenagers.
Mhm.
I mean, I still remember my daughter's there. She's going to be 16 in 3 weeks. And it was literally like yesterday. It really was. When I had her in my arms and she was crying. And I just feel like it's just, where did it go? Why did it go so fast? I mean, remember that with Caden when he was a baby?
Oh, yeah. I
It's
definitely do.
he's gonna be 10.
I know.
Isn't that crazy? We would have we would have had it easy if we didn't have any more kids.
I know.
Just think about it. We could just go out, go do things.
What's the adventure in that?
I mean, the adventures when you're like, hey, we're gonna go to Florida and leave all the kids home.
True, true.
Get on the plane and like watch one of them call like, hey, I burnt the house down.
Or, hey, you want to go to Florida and not have kids that are going to cry?
I
You're
know.
too old to cry at this point in time.
Yeah, so having the kids. So all my kids were more than 2 years apart, and having kids that are a year and 2 months apart is, or
Mhm.
not even that year and a month, right?
Mhm.
Is
About
different.
a year and 2 months.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, year and 2 months.
yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
It's so you asked, you're a twin, and you asked me, do you think it would have been better to have twins,
Yes.
or would it better to have them a year or 2 months apart? Now, not having twins, I can't fully come up with the realization, but I think I would rather have had twins.
Although my mom, who did have the twins, said it's probably easier having the twins.
I think so because Brian is so mobile and he is so into things that, for
Mhm.
instance, if I want to lay Olivia on the ground to go get a diaper,
You can't do
before
that.
I turn around, Brian's on top of her trying to put her in a chokehold.
Yeah. Well, he does good with the older kids. Like, I knew when I was pregnant with Brian that he knew he was not the only child, and he knew he was gonna have to come out of that womb as a fighter, and he sincerely is. He roughhouses with his older brothers. It's like it's amazing how siblings know natural sibling rivalry. Like, he doesn't get that rough with all the kids, but he knows Caden and Caleb that he can just put them in headlocks, arm bars, and this is natural for this kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wasn't taught this. He doesn't need to be taught it. Like, he's was born with this attitude. And then with Olivia, he's so sweet. He loves to give her a lot of kisses, but then he has the ornery side to him, like the sweet and sour patch kids. You see those commercials? So he comes up, but he's the opposite. He's sweet first, then sour. So he comes up, he gives her 2 kisses, and then a smack on the forehead. And it's like, dude, that's your little sister. Like, she's not
Yep.
only 3 months old, and you smacking her in the forehead. And then there's a couple of times that Bri- Brian got Olivia. He got a hold of her, and I'm like, no, that's too rough. And then here's my Grace girl. She smiles at him, and I'm like, oh no, she's going to be able to handle him. I was like, I thought for sure she was going to cry. And all she did is let out this big smile.
she's amazing with him. Like
Yeah.
he is so rough. He's just a rough boy, and
Mhm.
she is such a gentle. You can already see how gentle she is, and
Mhm.
she is so tough because
She's
he,
gonna have to
like you
be.
said, kiss, kiss, smack. And he
Mhm.
does it so fast that you're like 90% of the time you catch it, but that 10% he gets something in. And she looks at him and look grins, and I'm like, one day you're gonna pay for that boy. She's
Mhm.
only a year difference. She's gonna beat you up one day.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't wait to see that day. I can't wait to see them both walking around. They're both standing up to each other the way they should be. But right now, she is so fragile and he is
Mhm.
so rough. I wish they were both fragile and both contained. I could
Mhm.
put them both in a crib, not have to worry about him climbing out, or him sticking his leg through the railings.
I know, I know.
That was a rough one. So we put Brian in the crib real quick. Maybe a minute or two goes by, and I hear Kathleen screaming, oh my gosh, his leg, his leg." I'm like,
Mhm.
he's in the crib. What would he do in the crib? And we have that netting that keep the knee out of the railing netting. He steps on it, squishes it down,
Yeah.
bends his knee, right? Sticks it between the railing, and is like,
It's not even just a
"Cool."
straight out leg, it's a bent leg
It's
with
a
a kneecap
bent
in
knee.
there, so it's like
And I'm telling you, so we get there, and I grab both sides of the each rail. So I have one arm on each rail, and this is a crib, right? So I'm thinking like I can pry him a little bit. I'm pretty strong. So I sit there and
I
I'm
thought we were gonna have to
pulling him
break it.
apart, and we can't get his knee out. And at this point, this is 30 seconds a minute, and his knee's starting to turn colors because he's trapped his knee in a
Mhm.
tourniquet pretty much. So she's screaming, and this is where the truth of a mother's strength comes in. I see Kathleen take her foot and put it on the one railing, take both hands, put on the other railing, and just yell at me, "You get his knee!" And then all of a sudden, like Macho Man Randy Savage, she's like bending the bar so I couldn't move, and his knee goes, boop, pops out, and he has a little bit of indentation and just in the skin, nothing damaged or bruised or nothing, but just that mother strength. I was like, if a woman's ever getting mugged, all she got to do is think about her kid getting hurt, and that mugger's going to get beat up.
True story, true story.
I was blown away. I was like, what is happening right now? It's like watching Iron Man fly in a Marvel movie. You're like amazed for a moment, like, whoa, that's pretty awesome.
That's you know what? It's funny that you say that because, you said it were like Iron Man, but really, a mom's strength is so much more than their superheroes when it comes to our kids.
She went all like Hulk on that railing. She did. He did.
I
I
thought I was
mean,
gonna have to break it.
I bet you your fingerprints are in there or something like that. I bet you I should go take a look at that rail and see like your indentation from your thumbs in there or something. Probably something crazy like that.
Anyway, um, I know we're gonna go off on tangents here, and that's okay because that will answer your question, "Who are we?" And you'll get to know us just by these little rants and little stories that we share. I know he has a habit of going off in tangents and stories. I know I do. You'll say a word and it'll spark a story in my life. Oh my goodness, that word. I relate to this in my life, and it doesn't have to be a big word. It just that a moment comes into my memory.
hmm So I guess one of the other questions we were actually asked by Eileen, I believe, right?
Mhm.
Is how do you have time for this?
Okay, you're looking at me, so you want me to answer this, and that's
How do
okay.
you have time for this?
That's good because I didn't tell you this answer, and this is why, because I wanna be sincere at this point in time. So, my husband wanted to do a podcast, and I was like, "Okay, I'll do one with you." I hate my speaking voice. I'm not necessarily comfortable on putting my face in camera, um, but I'm up for the adventure. And I'll tell you why we have time for this, or at least I decided to make time for this, because we don't make a lot of time for ourselves to discuss things, and um, we don't have a lot of time for us. So I felt this was a good opportunity for us to discuss our week, to discuss our stories, and you're just smiling at me.
Oh, because I was thinking they say men don't listen, so I have to listen.
Well,
If
oh yeah,
not, I'm gonna have a bunch of people going, "See, husbands don't listen."
and wait, that's the other part of it because he is forced to listen to me while I'm here because
That's true.
there's such a difference between a man telling a story and a woman. He can tell the same story, which I admire, the same story that I told, and four key main words, and have the same meaning. And I'm like, that's talent because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, like if you ask me that question, how do we have time for this? Kids are in bed.
Yeah. Well, yes, number one, the kids are in bed. But I was also a little bit more sentimental than that.
No, I agree. We always struggle and we always talk about with jobs, and you're working and I'm working. Now it's been nice being off for a few months with the baby, but I go back to work in a day and a half, and you're going to go back to work soon. And with having kids, having different activities, having to drive places, do things, do stuff at the church, we
Yes.
don't just talk.
We don't just talk. And this is our way of connecting and committing to having this conversation. And if we have an audience in front of us while we do it, that's okay too.
Yeah, you'll get to see the real us, and I think that's kind of the point.
Mhm.
Um, we want to open conversations, about like struggles in life, and maybe one day we'll say, "Hey, money's not good this month, and we're struggling," or maybe one day it'll be,
Mhm.
"Hey, you haven't kissed me in a week. What's up with that?" I mean, who knows what it'll be?
Oh, are you trying to turn this into a kiss cam now?
Ooh, I'm okay with that idea. But you never know what it'll turn into. It could be just a simple conversation about our lives, work, or it could be a conversation about something more than that.
Mhm.
So, but one thing we committed also, which is amazing for this, is we have decided that anything we talk about in the podcast, we're gonna postpone. Like we're like, oh, that's a really good thing for the podcast. Let's not talk about it yet. So we write it down in our notes in our iPhones, and then we keep it in the back burner for the podcast. We had a really interesting conversation the other day about a gas station. So we're not going to do that tonight, but it's good. It's good. So that's going to happen. And we also talked about doing the I Trust My Wife challenge, which if you
Oh,
don't
I'm
know what
so
that is.
excited.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have to do that. I don't know if we're going to do that podcast, so that's going to be kind of hard. But I think we should at least post it on Facebook so people can see how much I don't trust my wife. I mean, trust my wife. Trust my wife. Got to make sure I correct myself.
Okay. Well, there's a difference too. It's like you trust your wife, but this has to do with do you trust your wife's hand-eye coordination? And going back to the previous conversation, if you were my kid sitting in the chair, you might have a better chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you don't know what the challenge is, the husband puts a red Solo cup or a cup on his head, and the wife gets a belt. And the husband is back to the wife, and she gets to swing the belt and try to knock the cup off the husband's head. The problem is, she can swing as hard as she wants. She can do it gentle. She can do it hard. She can swing it wherever way she wants. But the whole point is not to hit your husband in the face.
But I think you have to swing it hard enough, just hard enough, not too hard, just hard enough that it has some momentum to it.
Just hard enough to leave a bruise.
I won't leave a bruise. Well, no promises, but I'll try not to.
So you're all going to experience that at some point because it's coming, and I told her I would do it. And she's excited, and I'm worried because she's way too excited.
Okay, listen. I might get one miss in on purpose.
Wow. Wow. So at least I'll have proof that it was done on purpose. I guess I can use that in evidence
I
one
may
day.
or may not get one miss in on purpose.
Wow. So we may have to hold off until she's not as mad. Apparently she's mad about something. I don't know what it is. She's got to get this out first.
Do I look mad to you?
You like you're enjoying this way too much. So apparently, I'm getting whacked in the face with a belt.
I wouldn't do that. I'm actually a very nice person.
Are you?
Well,
You get way too much enjoyment out of the thought of whacking me in the face with a belt.
next question.
And the other reason I think this is awesome is it's hard to study my Bible as it is, and it's because like the other day I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and I literally put my Bible on the table, and I was getting a cup of tea because I don't drink coffee. I hate coffee. I was getting ready, and for some reason my son just wakes up and is ready to start his day. And it's frustrating because I barely get a hard time to study the Bible, let alone time to study with you. And one of the things we committed to do with this podcast is the day or maybe the couple of days before is we're going to watch a message or listen to a Bible study or maybe do a Bible study together, um, just to you know have something to talk about when it comes to the Bible.
Absolutely. So
And okay,
I just wanted to say too, quick, and I know you're on a serious note with the Bible, but this is where humor comes in. If you would like to, they can leave comments when they watch this.
yeah, of course.
So, okay, this is what you're going to vote on. What is better, tea, hot tea, Eagles, and Ford, or a Chevy, Giants, and coffee?
You're like everywhere's over there. Like you pick one topic.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, you're a tea person.
It was
I'm a coffee
car, football,
person.
or drink.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you're a tea person. I'm a coffee person. You're an Eagles person. I used to be a Giants person. I don't watch football enough to be a football fan or pick a team. So it'd be bad to say that I'm still a Giants fan. But if I had to choose a team, it would be Giants. You're Eagles. I would say Chevy is a lot better than Ford. So
Okay. So what you're saying is you should pick in the comments below.
yeah, yeah.
Coffee or tea is optional. So what would you prefer? And then for me, it's cold tea, sweet tea, pure leaf, my favorite. The second is Eagles versus whatever's.
Whatever's
Yes,
Giants.
whatever's. And the third one would be Ford versus any other car. Now, let me
Chevy.
say, I like Chevys. I'm not against Chevys. My truck is currently a Chevy, but if it's a modern vehicle, I wanted a Chevy. But if it's a '90s vehicle, it is not just a Ford with a straight six. It matters. It matters a lot. That's what I want.
Okay. Okay.
So, best engine ever made. You literally can do anything to that as long as you change the oil. That truck will never break down. You go through 50 transmissions. You have to replace the rear axle. But if you change the oil in a straight six, that thing will never break down on you. That's it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so now back to our Bible studies.
So serious thing. Pete's Dragon. Do you know who Pete's Dragon is?
Yeah,
What is Pete's Dragon?
that's your favorite childhood movie.
It was. So my grandpa Larry, my dad's dad, got me Pete's Dragon. And I used to watch it all the time with him.
Mhm.
And I got this stuffed animal, and it was Elliot, which is the dragon in the movie. He's a green dragon with little tiny
Mhm.
wings, and he's just turned invisible. And I still remember having this stuffed animal and loving on that thing. And the pastor in the message we watched was talking about
Mhm.
his stuffed animal bear. It was a bear, I believe, right? He's talking about how
Yeah, it's
old the
fair.
bear was and how disgusting it was and how much it stunk and but how much
Mhm.
he loved that bear. And then he talked in reference about us. And people ask, well, how can God love us? How could God appreciate
Mhm.
us? And when I thought about his comparison to that bear, it made me think of my stuffed animal. And I always called him Pete's Dragon. His name was Elliot, and that's what his actual name was. But for me, his name was Pete's Dragon.
Mhm.
And I love that stuffed animal. I loved it with everything. It's just there's so much joy to hold it and have it, and just for it to just be part of my life. And the pastor used to reference that when we feel like we're not good enough, we are good enough. We are loved because God loves us. No matter in our dirtiness,
Mhm,
our filth, our rags, our disgustingness, God gives us value because God loves us. The
mhm,
same way that stuffed animal, if I would have handed it to you, if I would have handed it to a stranger, they wouldn't care about that stuffed animal
mm-mm,
because they don't love it. They don't just that's not their joy, their happiness. But to God, He loves us.
mhm,
We are everything to Him. You know, He literally left heaven. He came to earth to become a human, knowing fully well that His creation was going to brutalize
mhm,
and kill Him. But He loved us so much in our filth, our nastiness, our stink. And I'm using that in a it's not real. It's
mhm,
we're not stinky people typically, right? But some of us are. But in our sin, He still loved us. That He died for us,
mhm.
so we can have a relationship with Him again.
Yeah,
And it's true.
true. And we talked a lot about our children tonight, and I think about. I know you thought about Pete's Dragon because the guy in the podcast had talked about that. I thought about my favorite doll that I love to sleep with as a child. How much value I put into that as a child. Um, but we think about the love that we have for our own children. Me as a mother, you as a father. And if you think about that on a larger scale, every single one of us are God's children. And even when we're not happy with ourselves, He loves us all equally. When our children have disagreements with each other, that's hard for us sometimes. Um, One of God's biggest things was love thy neighbor. And He didn't just mean the people next door to you, He meant everybody. And why do you think He wanted us to love each other that way? Because we are all His children, and He doesn't want us at war with each other. He doesn't. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent. I know there's a lot of war and religion, um, but God loves you. He does. And we and that's why we say, um, ha- know Jesus, know who He was, know that God loves you. It doesn't matter if you are Catholic, Protestant, it doesn't matter what denomination you are. Let Jesus be the focus.
Yeah, and that's the problem is denominations become so focused on what they are and what they believe that sometimes we miss the point. The point is Jesus. There's a part in the Bible where one of the disciples was talking about all these credentials he had, and he was saying that he counted it all for naught, counted it all for nothing, counted it all for dung. Actually, a better translation is actually a curse word.
Mhm,
I mean, he counted it all for poop, because none of it matters other than Jesus. And we get so focused on our background or our education or, hey, I went to this school and got this master's in divinity, a master's in theology, that it means nothing. Like, all that means zero. Your
mhm,
master's, your doctorate means zero when it comes down and it's compared to Jesus. And we got to understand, like, this time of year is not when Jesus was born. It's a time we remember when Jesus was born. He was born most likely in the spring or the fall,
mhm.
but we use this time to remember. We use this time to remember that Jesus limited himself as a man for us.
Yeah. We knew that this birth was going to be monumental. I mean, this was going to be the beginning of forgiveness of our sins. Um, Jesus's birth, usually they people get gifts on their birthday, right?
Mhm.
But the day that he was born, we got the gift. We really
Yeah.
did. So,
Yeah, we really did get an amazing gift.
mhm,
We for Christmas we give gifts. Um, it's amazing how much we will spend and go into debt,
mhm,
which I don't encourage at all. Don't go into debt for Christmas. Save up money and do whatever you got to do, but don't go into debt for Christmas. We will do things like that because we love our kids. We want our kids to wake up to see a presents under the tree, and that's changed drastically. I still remember when I was a kid,
mhm,
opening the gifts, screaming, freaking out because I was so excited. But now kids want digital things. They want gift cards. They want things that you can't hold in your hand to hand
mhm.
anymore. And it's almost sad how the paradigm is shifted.
I think they're still excited though about it. I can still hear joy in their voices
Yeah,
when
they're excited, but
Mhm,
the problem with the gift is, like for instance, I remember getting a light bright from my grandpa, um, and I remember playing with that toy and enjoying that toy for so long. Now you give somebody a Robux gift card, they spend that Robux
mhm,
in 5 minutes, $100 gift card, and then 2 weeks later they're playing a different game on Roblox, and they don't even remember the digital items they bought because they don't care about those items anymore. They're on the next game. They need a
mhm,
new Robux money for their next game. So there's no going to be long term memories. It's all short term, quick, have it gone memories now.
mhm,
And I wonder if that's almost an attack or almost like a everything now is short term. So like kids have a 20-second attention span when it comes to movies. Kids can't sit still in school. Everything is fast. Everything
mhm,
is made to get you to not focus. And with Jesus, this is something that happened 2,000 years ago, right? Over 2,000 years when he was born. It was most likely 6 BC. So you're looking at 2029 years ago, about. And we still honor and cherish that. And I think Christmas has lost some of that. I think it's lost some of that memory, cherishment because of how the gifts have changed. What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't honestly, I never thought about it in that way. I don't think it has changed a whole lot. I don't think it has to do with the gift given. I mean, even when we were younger, there was gifts that we wanted. The commercials made the toys look so cool and so awesome. We got that gift, and we realized it didn't do half the stuff that the Magic on TV showed that it did.
Mhm.
We played with the toy maybe for 2 weeks, maybe 2 days. We put it up on the shelf and we forgot about it. There were some toys that we played with a bit longer. I think that Christmas morning might be different because church is different in people's lives. They talked about in a different podcast, not to go off too on a tangent, but I think this ties into more of what you're saying than gift giving. The generational differences in church. Generation number one goes to church every day. Generation number two, I'm sorry, goes to church every Sunday. Generation number two says it's okay to miss church every once in a while. Generation number three, church becomes less and less. And I'm not saying that you have to go to church to appreciate what the Lord has done, but I certainly think that church helps with community and staying on track.
The church is very important. You're right, though. People are really neglecting that, and it tells us in the Bible how important church is, and tells us not to neglect the gathering.
Mhm,
Um, we need to go to church. Yeah, people will fight that and say, you don't. You can watch it online, but you can watch online.
mhm,
You can enjoy it online, and sometimes you have to miss. But that shouldn't be the standard. That should be the exception. You need to get to church. You need to enjoy each other. We need to hug each other. The Bible talks about laughing with each other, mourning with each other. When someone's sad, to be sad with them, happy, be happy with them. And that's the thing. When we don't go to church and I'm crying, I can't, I have nobody to cry with. I have my wife, but I don't have my brother and Jesus there to cry with me. And that's something the churches have lost. You see someone
Mhm.
crying in church, we don't really see people cry with them. We see people joyous. We see other people joyous. But when was the last time we saw someone cry in church and we saw people cry with that person? And that's something that's
I do
been,
see that at a
you
church.
do see that sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but as a whole, as a church, I think there's a lot of things we need to get back into scripture on and focus getting a little old school in our new school because we do really well reaching people in a modern way. Churches are doing a great job with bringing in Christian music in a modern way. We're sometimes forgetting some of the important stuff, like the crying with each other and laughing with each other. And,
Mhm.
and I think it's the same thing with Christmas morning. I think Christmas mornings that
Mhm.
we need to bring a little bit of old school into our new school. We need to bring some of that videos back. Which I always think of this one video where the kid opens his Nintendo's. I think it was a Nintendo 64, and he just screams with joy. And I feel like you don't see those videos anymore. So I think for having a little old school in our new school would be an awesome thing to see.
I would also encourage, everybody, a lot of people, I would say, the majority of people that go to church may have had a bad experience with a church. And some people who don't go to church because they had bad experiences with a church. That doesn't mean that every church is bad. Even in the same denominational, if you choose to be Catholic, if you choose to be Protestant, and I keep using those terms because that's just what comes to mind. I guess it's what I grew up in. And you don't like the way that one church is being ran, or you don't appreciate the people in there, maybe the people that don't appreciate you. Move on, find another church until you find your home, because that's what church should be. It should be a home to you and your family. And when you're there, you would know it. When you go house shopping, you don't buy the first house that you see. You go house shopping. So I say the same thing. I encourage people, don't let one bad church or one bad situation that you may have had with somebody at church or ruin that for you, because there's a home for you.
There is.
Yeah.
And then before you do that, though, before you do leave a church or before you do shop, make sure if there is an issue, you go to those people and resolve that issue. You try to work it out with your brother. You try to grow that relationship stronger. And sometimes, when there's no resolve and you believe you're biblically incorrect, that you do need to, move on. But before you do that,
Well, I'm talking before you even build a brotherhood or
right?
sistership. A lot of times people know the first time they walk into a church, if that's the place that feels like home to them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And then you build your relationships that way. And then hopefully, with any relationship that you have in life, if you have a relationship close enough with that person, you should be able to resolve it with them. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about even before.
Oh, as your initial trying to find a church.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, we just started going to a church locally. We wanted to be in a church in our community. So we had that experience where we were going around and we were driving 40 minutes to a church. It was
We
a
liked
good
it. It was
drive.
a good church. Yeah. It's
It was
just
a
a
great, it was a
long
good
drive.
church, good people.
Mhm.
We loved them all. We still do. I would love to go back there and visit, but we're now just so involved and so busy in our church. But our issue was it was 40 minutes away. We wanted to be in our community, reaching people around here, and it was hard when we're driving almost an hour. And then by the time you get there, it's hard to really get engaged because getting the kids ready, you're already running a little late. I mean, it's hard sometimes
Making
getting
it on
out. Yeah,
time to
and
a
we're
church that's 5 minutes
4 minutes,
away.
5 minutes,
Mhm. Not even 5 minutes. Right, right.
And now, and I say that, but now here this Sunday, we're going to be up leaving the house at 7 in the morning. Church starts at 10 because we have to do a 30-minute run to get donuts. The dudes drive 30 minutes back to set them up. So here we are driving back 30 minutes again. But it's awesome because this week we're having a great event. We're having a beautiful group that's going to sing, and there's a lot of people coming. So we wanted to really have just awesome, amazing, tasty donuts. So we drove, so instead of driving 5 minutes away, we're driving 30 to get the good donuts. So it's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those donuts are so good. If you're wondering what place, Jim Main's. It's on Delsey Drive in Vineland. Their donuts are amazing. They're really, really good. And I'm excited to see what happens with this church this year. This church has a lot of potential in the community, a lot. And I'm really praying that God's going to just open these doors and open the hearts of the people in the community. And I really think that, like I said, this church has potential to pack the building out. There's a lot of people in the community that don't go to church. I look out the windows of our church every week, just watch people drive by while people, at church. There's a lot of families in this area staying home on Sundays.
And I never even realized how much I needed church, again, until I started going. And I found something I didn't even think I was looking for. I found a lot of sisterhoods, a lot of people that care and genuinely care, and they look out for each other. I know my son was sick one week or a couple weeks, and people have just walked up and prayed over him. One week he was called up to stage, and I was in the bathroom changing Olivia because she had just went to the bathroom, and a very nice sister came running into the bathroom, and she said, let me take care of her. You really want to be in there. Kaden just got called up to stage. And I just thought that was such a sweet gesture. Like, she acknowledged that I wasn't there. And she came. And I would call her an email, but I don't know if she wants me to. So you know who you are. And if you want to say hi in the comments and you are listening, certainly do so. But a lot of the women in the church just have been a positive, just positive on each other, just really looking out for each other. You see cliques in high school of women being catty with each other, or teenagers. You see cliques at work sometimes. Not necessarily at my job. I work with a great bunch of ladies, but these women really are looking out for each other, for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was really happy about our church is watching you get connected in. Because when we were going to the previous church, we were enjoying it. We weren't really connecting. This church, I've watched you just get absorbed in. People just love you. Well, why wouldn't they? You're awesome.
I certainly had connected with a couple of ladies from the previous church, but on a different level.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
They knew my name. They knew I was the woman with a bunch of kids walking in. They greeted me with a smile. But then again, that was their job. They were the door greeters.
Right.
So
and that's hard to go from greeter to friend. So like the one with the door greeters is they always seem to be at the door. They always be in that greeter mode. But the one thing about our church that's really done well is the people who greet after church get to know you. It's actually something that we're developing even more as a church. So I meet with pastor and we talk about different things and different improvements. We're working on developing the greeters into. We have a little pastor's minute that we did, and we talked about how we took away the registration center out of the welcome center because we wanted the welcome center to be just that a time when you get to welcome, meet, introduce, talk, get to know, exchange phone numbers. And our church does a good job of that. But as the church gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that's harder and harder and harder and harder to do. So we want to make sure that gets done successfully. We don't want the next couple that comes out to fall through the cracks. We want to have the same relationship. We want them talking the same way we're talking about how they're connected or meeting people. They're at that next level of relationships. And I'm just really happy to see you connected in the way you are and watching your growth. Like watching how much stronger in biblical knowledge you are is amazing. Hearing you talk with people, and you were like, I remember you saying, "I'm so unsure on this, I'm so unsure on that," and then you come to me and we talk and we go in the Bible, and then now you're like, boom, this, boom, boom, and you're just like knocking it out of the park. And it's just amazing to watch their growth.
I still ask you, that was okay.
You always can ask, and listen, there's going to be things I say that are wrong, you say that are wrong. Listen, the only person that knows the Bible perfectly is in heaven right now.
Yeah.
He's he's it. Now we strive to get we want to be as accurate and studied as we can, but we're humans. We're not perfect.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
if you ask, what's the old joke my dad used to say? If you ask 3 theologians a question, you get 4 answers. So that's the joke for everything. Like, yes, if you ask 3 dentists their opinion, you get 5 different answers. Right? So it's the same thing with the Bible. You try to study it and you try to understand it as accurate as you can. And you look at the rapture. The rapture is great because you have pre-trib, mid-trib, then you have something called, which is rare, 3/4 trib, and then you have post-trib, and then you have people who don't even believe in the rapture. So it's interesting, and Jesus is coming soon. So I always like throw that out, and it's going to be pre-trib. So, but I always say, if the Antichrist shows up and the peace treaty is signed, I immediately become mid-trib. And if 3.5 years later, Jesus still doesn't come, I immediately become post-trib. So that's a little thing I always say, but I am pre-trib. I believe Jesus is coming before the tribulation, and I believe that is soon. So, but I think we did a roughly good job for our very first.
Did we get through all of our questions?
We did. We got through all of them. We kept it under an hour, which is good. So if you haven't seen the beginning of the video, we had a little video. That video just talks about our. It's just a bunch of words and some cool music. But that video is some of the words that we want to really focus on keeping as our key points as we develop, as we become more comfortable. And if you can't tell, we're new.
Oh, I'm sure they can tell. And that's okay. If there's any topics you would like to hear us talk on, feel free to throw that in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to throw that in the comments. I know I can be an open person. Brian can too. So if you ask the questions, just be prepared for the answer. That's all.
Yeah, and it can be on anything. I would love to do the love languages in a couple months. Maybe we'll do love languages together.
Yes. Yeah.
Because men and women are 2 different things.
And even if you speak the same language, your dialect could be different. So
100%.
That would be a great, I'm a fan of that.
I know. So that's one of the things I think we're going to do. Maybe do that in the spring but there's a lot of ideas we have, a lot of thoughts that we have. But this podcast, we really just wanted to kind of get to know us. We did go off on some tangents as usual, as to be expected with us. But just really want you to know who we were. And next time we're going to jump in and just get right into it, I think. Anything else, beautiful lady?
I think that's it. Thank you all for you hung out with us for this long. Thank you for hanging out.
You did good. Just serve a award or a cookie or something.
If you listened to the whole thing and you made it the whole hour, drop us a line on that too.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.